GOKU 2's new engine. Bullet doing an amazing job on these things. This engine's a 3.4 litre firing setup as well from Bullet, which is cool, so it's all machined, ready to go. The Nitto kit we've gone with, 3.4 litre drag setup. All Nitto stuff, it's all just proven. V2 rods, it's an EN40B crankshaft, wide journal. We've gone to Trent TP1 piston pin, and we've also selected the buttons to go with it. This is another example of another badass engine going together. It's actually pretty cool to see what goes inside these engines, and once they're together, you never really see it again. Hopefully, that's the goal.
I have definitely mentioned before as to like why billet blocks are so good. The main caps are basically the bottom half of the block. In a normal engine, all of this there would all be attached. This would all be one piece.
Yeah.
And then these bits come out.
Right.
Just the internal bits.
Yep.
But that's why a billet block's so strong, is the whole bottom of the block is what holds the crank in. Like, it's like, you imagine you've got 6 little bits that bolt in and hold the crank in. They can all move a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, they can all potentially have a little bit of movement in them. Whereas when this whole bottom chunk of the block is one piece, that's why they're so strong. Yeah, it's very rigid. There's technically only one correct way to do it, but there's 2 ways to do it that will work. Don't freak out, we're doing it the correct way, but I'm just explaining the fact. So if you're building a little LS1 at home or something, you can use plastic gauge, flexi gauge.
Oh, yeah.
So this is basically like a physical clearance checker. You basically put the bearing shells in, put your crank in, put a little piece of that in, torque it all down, take it back off, then you measure how much it's squished, essentially. And that gives you your physical clearance. And it's very good for like rough measurements. In this instance, we're obviously going to be measuring them with bore gauges and all that sort of stuff, so it actually gives our exact clearance, so in more precise. It's more precise because obviously what we want to do with this engine, we want to know exactly what our clearances are. We don't want to know. The main issue with this is when you do it, you can end up, so if you look at like, yeah, basically you're matching these little squares up to how much squish the plastic gauge is squished, and so you can end up where it's like
a little bit
less than that, but more than that, and it's like, so you know it's roughly in between the two, but it's,
you don't know exactly.
You don't know exactly. So basically, what we do now is we measure the inside diameter here. You can measure it in a couple different spots, and then you measure your crankshaft journal in the exact same spot. So we'll measure number 1 journal, then we come over to our crank, and we measure the number 1 crank journal, and then the difference in those 2 measurements will give us our clearance. So basically, we just go through and do all of that. And then if we have to, so say for example, if we end up with a tight clearance on our number 1 journal and a looser clearance on our 5th journal, we might be able to do some bearing swappages to try and fix that up. But generally, you'll find that it's pretty good. We've had Dane from Dane's Measuring Services come in. So we've done our initial measurements. Basically, we're going to shift some bearings around to try and bring all our clearances closer in line with each other, if that makes sense. So get as tight of a spread between our clearances as possible just by moving bearings from one journal to another journal. So basically we'll do that. We're going to swap 1 to 3 and 2 to 5. Torque it back down, remeasure it, see if it's gotten us closer, and then that'll probably do it for the mains. Boys are doing the rods at the moment, measuring the rod clearances, and then once that's done, we'll move on to the ring gaps, gap the rings. Once the rings are gapped, then we can actually start to assemble this thing. So that's the exciting part. Now for the not exciting part is to just pull this apart again. This close to starting the final assembly of this thing, so we've done, yesterday we did all our piston to bore clearances, which we had to open up a little bit. They were a tiny bit tight, so we've managed to get the block machined yesterday afternoon, which is good. This morning we've done all our ring gaps. Our ring gaps are all set now. There is one final thing that I'm not 120% sure on, and that's whether or not these pistons are going to clear our oil squirters. So we'll have to double check that. We'll get the crank in there, that can be all in and done, and then we'll put a piston in, spin around and see if we're going to have clearance for our oil squirters. Got to drill out this oil gallery too. The oil feed to the head, it's currently like a 1.1-ish, 1 mil, 1.1-ish. We want to take that up to like a 1.4, 1.6, which is what we did on our other 2 billet blocks, just to keep a little bit of oil in the head. A lot of the time with RBs, people, you got to be worried about filling the heads with oil. Not really a concern for us because A, run a decent head drain, and B, dry sump. So we're pulling oil from the head all the time. So we're not concerned about having oil issues in the head. We want to make sure that we've got oil up there, especially when we're spinning the things to 10,000 RPM plus. So. Alright, good news is the pistons don't hit the squirters, so we can put them all in and we can spin it around and it'll be fine. So we'll clean this up now. Clean this up, give the bores one nice final little wipe through. Pistons, clean the pistons, lube all the pins. Rings can go on the pistons, pistons can go in, chuck the buttons in, and we can put it all in. The bottom end is built.
We installed the VCAM. We're just going to put the camshaft down, just measure everything, measure the valve lift, and just make sure our engine CDC, making sure we've got a max, making sure we've got greater than 6.7 mil lift to touching the piston. If that's the case, then this kit will be perfect and go from there.
Perfect.
We don't have to worry about that if it does. Then we can use the maximum amount of VCAM adjustment. in the ECU, which is cool. Those guys that don't actually know what VCAM does or VCAM is, or how it works, probably more so than actually how it works, is probably how it actually goes in the head. As you can see inside the cover, there's two little, I don't know what you call them, crevices, cavities, crevices, maybe whatever it is, which is then linked by this little tube that goes into the adapter for the camshaft. Pretty much what that does is just puts pressure, like once you activate the VCT or variable cam, I guess you call it VCAM, through the solenoid, it actually puts oil into that area, which then advances your camshaft.
We're drilling the holes for our direct port nitrous in our Plazmaman manifold. We've done this a few times before, but I don't know if we've ever actually showed it. So basically they come with the bosses in the billet runners, and then we just got to drill them out. I believe it's either 16th NPT or 8th NPT. I'll double check that obviously before I drill any holes. 16th NPT. So basically this is the nitrous jet. So we need to do this while the manifold's off. Obviously, A, because we're going to be drilling holes in it. We don't want to fill the manifold full of metal, and if that's on the engine, then the metal will go in the engine, which is bad. And also, B, we need to make sure that we index all of these jets. So obviously you can see the cutout there on this. So nitrous is going to be coming in the bottom and then out there. So we want to make sure that we index all of those facing into the cylinders, going into the engine. Obviously you don't want to be spraying nitrous back out of your manifold, that's the wrong way. So index them all towards, obviously you could just mark them and then make sure that you spin them in and it's facing the right way at the end, but it's just nice to see them. And then from there you get the nitrous pill goes in that end, and then it just you can just get a -3 fitting on there, and that seals it. For this time round, because we're not actually going to be using the nitrous while the car goes to Japan, or like at all until it gets back with the body kit finished and everything. So we're just going to basically put these in so the manifold can stay on. We won't have to take it off again. So we're basically going to put the jets in, put the pills in, and then we're just going to put some -3 caps on it so that it'll all be sealed again. And then when it comes back from Japan and the body kit's all done and we actually want to use the nitrous, then we'll take those caps off and make the lines to the solenoids. Basically just helping out our future selves.
Painted in this colour, a 732 black.
We should have the engine in tonight.
Exciting.
Exciting times.